The global tax evasion scandal continues to unravel. Over 2.9 terabytes worth of data titled the Pandora Papers, once again exposing how the wealthy elites are hiding their assets offshore in tax havens. African leaders in about 18 countries have been named, and South Africa reportedly has over 56,000 links to this. Well, to weigh in, I'm joined by social activist and editor of Maverick Citizen, Mark Heywood. Mark, good afternoon. Well, when the Pandora box things was breaking last weekend globally elsewhere, I just thought, African, what are these African links? And now we know there are several links to Africa, but also to South Africa. I mean, should we be surprised by that, Mark?
Good afternoon, Dan. Look, I'm not surprised to hear this. We know that the ultra-rich are avoiding paying taxes, are shifting money to safe havens around the world. But I think what's valuable about it is that this is the evidence. This is the proof. You know, as you said, a massive amount of documentation that shows how they are doing it, where they are doing it, and the amounts of money that are involved. And I think it's particularly distressing that, you know, some of these people come from some of the poorest countries in the world. You know, one of the people who's been exposed is a chap called Billy Rautenbach from Zimbabwe. You know, and Zimbabwe is suffering terrible, terrible poverty, terrible inequality. Meanwhile, you have an individual like this who is banking literally billions in offshore tax havens, as revealed by this. So for me, Dan, I guess the big question is, when are our governments actually going to act seriously against this type of things? Because all of our African governments plead poverty perpetually, and yet here we are with the evidence that, in fact, money that should be in the fiscus is in private bank accounts doing nothing in far-flung parts of the world.
Yeah, and yet year in and year out, we hear from some governments in Africa about illicit money flows. And here we are, this revelation is showing that some of these leaders, and they're using their families as well, are using all kinds of strange and odd vehicles to hide their illicit gains and get money out of the countries that need them the most. I mean, what kind of action should we expect from governments to stop such outflows?
Well, you know, we have the South African Revenue Services. They have a primary responsibility. But we also need business and rich people to do more to police, because I don't think there's a huge amount of secret about who the ultra wealthy are and what some of them are doing with their money. So government has to lead, but other people have to play game. And it's particularly important at a time like this. You know, in South Africa, where we're dealing with the crisis after COVID, where millions of people have lost their jobs, where we've got a freeze on public sector salaries, etc. Dan, the key thing to understand is that government can act. The problem is that they are either afraid of some of these individuals, or sometimes, as we're seeing, in league with them, because you have senior government figures, as we've seen in Kenya, in Mozambique, who are party to this fraud, this grand corruption, this grand fraud.
Yeah, now that this has been exposed, and very briefly, Mark, we don't have much time left now to conclude, the role of citizens. I mean, you as social activists yourselves, besides speaking out when we become aware of this, what more do you think society, civil society can do to put pressure on governments to act?
Well, I think civil society and citizens should stop being shy about asking government to tax the elites and to tax the ultra-rich. You know, in a country like South Africa, wealth is still primarily where wealth always was, with white people, with elite people, and we know that they're not using that wealth for the public good. So we keep on putting off things like a wealth tax, which would do no harm to these super rich, to lose a few tens of billions of dollars or rands, but would do enormous good to our country. You know, we're a country that stands for social justice, equality, that has a constitution that is respected by the whole world. If that's the case, then we should act in the spirit of our constitution to help the poorest of the poor rather than keep protecting the richest of the rich.